The weirdest part about a full blackout isn't the darkness, it's the silence. No fridge hum, no streetlight glow bleeding through the blinds, no distant traffic, no phone buzzing with a dumb notification that proves the world is still spinning. You don't realize how much noise modern life makes until it shuts up. And if the grid really is down, not your neighborhood for an hour down, but everything down, the first danger isn't panic, it's delay. People waste the first day waiting for normal to return, like normal is a loyal dog that always comes home. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Either way, the moves you make in the first 6 to 12 hours set the tone for everything that follows. Not because you need to be a survival superhero, but because basic systems start failing in a predictable order. And if you stay ahead of that order, you're okay. If you fall behind it, the week gets brutal fast. So let's walk through what that first week actually looks like, and what you do each day to keep it from turning into chaos. Right away, you're going to feel your brain try to do this thing where it says, "It'll be back soon." That's normal. It's how humans protect themselves from stress. But here's the reality check. In a wide blackout, a lot of invisible systems fail. Water pumps, sewage lift stations, gas stations, card readers, refrigeration, phone networks eventually. Even if your phone shows signal, the backup power at towers doesn't last forever. So the first mindset shift is simple. Stop waiting. Start banking options. The first job is water. Not because you're going to die of thirst tomorrow, but because water pressure can drop fast once the pumping stations lose power. In some places, you might have most of a day. In other places, it can be hours. You don't get to choose which version you're living in. So you fill what you can, calmly and quietly. Bathtub, pots, bottles, clean trash cans if you have them, pitchers, anything food safe that holds water. Even if you've already got bottled water, having more buys you time, and time is comfort. Then you treat water like it's valuable because it is. You don't waste it washing dishes like it's a normal Tuesday. You don't drain it because it looks a little cloudy. You protect it. Keep lids on containers. Keep it away from chemicals. Keep it away from heat. And after the first day, you don't trust water from random sources without treating it properly. The simplest safe move for questionable water is boiling. Bring it to a rolling boil for at least a minute. If you're at high elevation, longer is safer. Let it cool. Store it clean. If you have actual water treatment tablets or a proper filter, follow the directions exactly. No guessing. This is not a place to get creative. Next, you take a quick inventory of food, but not like you're doing a spreadsheet. Just a what dies first scan. Fridge food goes bad first. Freezer food buys you time, especially if you don't open it constantly. Pantry food is your long game. So you eat in this order. Refrigerator first, then freezer, then pantry. That sounds obvious, but you'd be shocked how many people do the opposite because they're trying to save the good stuff and end up throwing away the most fragile stuff on day 2. If you've got a gas stove that still lights, use it while you can. Some gas systems keep working, some don't. If you've got a grill, use it safely outdoors. Cook what's going to spoil and turn it into meals you can eat over the next day. You're not being fancy. You're preventing waste and avoiding food sickness. And if your fridge is warming up, here's the rule. Don't play the smell game. Food poisoning in a blackout is a nightmare. When you're unsure, be cautious. Now light. People go candle crazy and then accidentally create a bigger emergency. So think layered. Flashlights and headlamps are safer. Lanterns can light a room. Candles are okay if you're careful, but treat them like fire, because that's what they are. Stable surface. Away from curtains. Never left unattended. Ever. And don't light up your windows at night like you're hosting a party. In a wide blackout, the brightest house becomes a magnet. Not always for bad people, sometimes just for desperate people. Either way, you don't want to be the glowing billboard on the block. That's day 1. Not dramatic, just decisive. Now day 2 feels different. Day 2 is when people realize the problem isn't the lights, it's everything attached to the lights. Your phone battery is dropping. You start hearing fewer cars. You notice the neighborhood is oddly quiet, but not peaceful quiet. More like everyone's listening quiet. This is the day sanitation starts to matter. Because once water pressure drops, toilets stop being reliable. And when toilets stop being reliable, you have to make a plan like an adult, not like someone hoping the universe will fix it. The goal is simple. Keep waste away from your living space and away from water sources. If you have a working toilet and some water stored, you can do limited flushing, but you don't waste good drinking water for that. If you're in a house with a yard and it's safe to do so, you set up a basic emergency toilet option. A bucket with a tight lid and heavy-duty trash bags is a common approach, and you use absorbent material like sawdust, kitty litter, or even shredded paper to reduce odor. Keep it sealed. Keep it away from food. Wash hands. If you're outside, you keep waste far from water sources and you cover it properly. The exact best practices depend on your area, but the big idea is distance and containment, and hand washing becomes the real-life hack. Soap is gold in a situation like this. If you have soap, use it. If you don't, do the best you can with clean water and friction. Hand sanitizer can help when you're limited, but it's not a full replacement for washing when hands are visibly dirty. This isn't glamorous, but it prevents the kind of illness that wrecks people in disasters. Now water again. By day 2, you stop pretending you'll just run to the store. The store is either closed, empty, or chaos. So you start thinking like this. Where can I get water if my stored water runs low? Rain catchment if you're lucky. Clean containers under a downspout, tarps angled into a bucket, anything that catches water without collecting a bunch of filth. Then treat it. If you have access to a natural water source like a stream or pond, you treat it, and you assume it's contaminated until proven otherwise. If you're in a city, this part gets tricky. Rooftop runoff and puddles can be full of contaminants you don't want. So if you're urban, the best answer is usually stored water plus proper treatment supplies before the blackout ever happens. But during the blackout, you work with what you've got, carefully. Day 2 is also when you start managing temperature more intentionally. If it's hot, you think ventilation and shade. If it's cold, you think containment. In winter, you pick one room as your living room, and you shrink your world into it. Blankets over windows, towels at the bottom of doors. Everyone sleeps close. Layers matter. Staying dry matters even more. People make dumb choices when they're cold. They take risks they wouldn't normally take. Your job is to stay warm enough to think straight. Now day 3. Day 3 is the turning point. This is when a lot of people crash mentally because they kept telling themselves it was temporary, and now they can't say that with a straight face anymore. It's also when the neighborhood starts changing. You might see more people outside, more just checking on things conversations, more rumors, more nervous energy. You might see people driving around slowly, not really going anywhere. This is where community becomes a real survival tool. You don't need to announce what you have. You don't need to become the neighborhood supplier. But having a couple solid relationships matters. Even a simple, "you okay?" check-in can create a basic trust loop. And trust is safety. If you're alone, this part matters even more. Being isolated makes everything harder. Now, food. By day 3, you've eaten the fragile stuff. You're moving into pantry mode. This is where staples shine. Rice, beans, pasta, oats, canned goods, peanut butter, shelf-stable foods. Not exciting, but reliable. Rationing matters, but not in a dramatic way. You don't starve yourself early and crash your energy. You pace. Think in terms of energy and hydration. If you're doing physical work, moving water, securing windows, cleaning, cooking over a grill, you burn more. So your food plan is based on what you're actually doing, not what sounds tough. And one more time, food safety matters. In a blackout, you don't want almost cooked. You cook thoroughly. You keep raw and cooked separate. You keep your hands clean. You avoid risky foods when you don't have refrigeration. Now, communication. Your phone is not your lifeline anymore. It's a fading screen. A battery radio is a lifeline. Even if you hear nothing but static sometimes, you keep checking for official broadcasts or updates. If you have a hand crank radio, great. If you don't, protect your batteries like they're valuable, because they are. And you stop wasting your phone battery doom scrolling, even if you can. You preserve power for essentials. Now days 4 and 5. This is the part people fear. and I'm going to keep this grounded. By day 4 or 5, you may see more desperation. Not everywhere, not always, but it rises because resources run down. This is where being low profile helps. Your home doesn't look stocked, it looks normal. Curtains closed, no bright lights, no loud noise, no obvious cooking smells drifting for blocks if you can avoid it. You also increase basic physical security in a calm way. Doors locked, windows secured. Simple awareness. If something feels off, you trust that feeling. You keep a flashlight near you. You keep shoes near you. You keep important documents and essentials in one place in case you have to leave quickly. If you live in an apartment, you coordinate with neighbors if possible. Even just shared awareness makes a difference. Now, this is also when you need to be careful about giving self-defense tips, because laws vary, and I'm not going to tell you how to harm people. The safest general advice is this: avoid conflict, avoid advertising resources, avoid traveling alone at night, keep distance from tense situations. If you do have legal self-defense tools where you live, understand the law and get training, because panic plus ignorance is dangerous. Most of the time, the smartest move is to not be the person anyone thinks about at all. Now, the other piece of days 4 and 5 is routine, because if you don't create structure, the mind starts spiraling. You set a daily rhythm. Wake up, water check, food check, sanitation check, quick neighborhood scan, radio check, small tasks, rest, repeat. It sounds basic, but it keeps you from melting down. It keeps your brain from turning every little noise into a crisis. Now days 6 and 7. If you've made it a week, you're doing something right. You're tired. You're probably grimy. You're stressed. But you're still functioning. And that matters. A lot of people don't fail because they run out of supplies. They fail because they run out of discipline and make one bad decision. They go out at night. They take a risk for no reason. They eat something questionable. They stop treating water properly because they're sick of it. So the move on days 6 and 7 is consistency. You keep treating water carefully. You keep sanitation strict. You keep cooking simple. You keep your home low profile. You keep listening for information. And you plan for both outcomes. Maybe the grid comes back, maybe it doesn't. You don't need to choose one fantasy. You build your week like a bridge, not a prophecy. Now I want to say something that matters. This kind of blackout doesn't kill people like a monster. The danger is boring. Dehydration, illness, exposure to heat or cold, injury, stress mistakes, bad water, bad food, poor sanitation. So if you can manage those basics, you can turn chaos into a set of problems with solutions. Water is a system. Food is a system. Heat is a system. Sanitation is a system. Information is a system. Routine is a system. When you build systems, you stop feeling helpless. And that's the real point. 7 days is short and long at the same time. It's short enough that you can get through it with smart choices. It's long enough that sloppy habits will punish you. If you want one takeaway that actually matters, it's this. The first day is where you buy time. The rest of the week is where you spend time wisely. And if you do it right, you don't become some legendary survival person. You just become the calm one. The one who's still standing when everyone else is exhausted. The lights may be out. The phone may be dead. The neighborhood may feel tense. But if you've got clean water, safe food, basic warmth, sanitation, and a steady routine, you're not helpless. You're prepared enough to make it through tomorrow. And then you do it again.